Welcome back to the Creative Liberty Podcast. We got some new bumper music. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to just dive right into it today. Rape, incest, and abortion. Searching beyond the myths. The title of this episode is from an article from the website Abortion Facts. It actually was first printed in 1994 in the Post-Abortion Review. And I wanted to read this article to you because I believe it's relevant to what's going on with the Supreme Court. Just for those of you who have your head under a rock. The Supreme Court decision was leaked. I think it was supposed to be presented in June, but it was voted on, I think, in February, and someone in the Supreme Court arena leaked their brief, and that person is probably looking at many years in jail if they figure out who it was. Roberts has already called for an investigation. But with that being said, a lot of people will argue for pro-life or for pro-choice. And those on the pro-life sometimes don't really know how to go beyond that when they're talking with someone about why they support life. So I'm going to read this article to you, shed some light on it. And here we go. By the way, this article is by David C. Reardon. He's a Ph.D. So the article begins online, and you can find this at abortionfacts.com. Editor's note, please see fact number 6, poverty, rape, disability, or unwantedness do not morally justify abortion. And there's 20 different facts on their website if you wanted to go check those out yourself. Professor Reardon begins. How can you deny an abortion to a 12-year-old girl who is the victim of incest? Complains an indignant supporter of abortion. How can you call yourself a loving Christian if you would force a victim of violent rape to give birth to a rapist child? That's a good question, actually. Every pro-lifer has heard these same challenges in one form or another. They are the emotionally charged questions designed to prove either one, that pro-lifers are insensitive fetus lovers, or two, or ethically inconsistent, allowing abortion for some circumstances, but not for others. Unfortunately, most pro-lifers have difficulty answering these challenges because the issue of sexual assault pregnancies is so widely misunderstood. Typically, both sides of the debate accept the presumption that women with sexual assault pregnancies would want an abortion, and that the abortion would in some way help them recover from the assault. Thus, the pro-lifer is left in the uncomfortable position of arguing that the sanctity of life is more important than the needs of the sexual assault victim, with whom everyone should rightly sympathize. But in fact, the welfare of the mother and the child are never at odds. Even in sexual assault cases, both the mother and the child are helped by preserving life, not by perpetuating violence. The reason most people reach the wrong conclusion about abortion in cases of rape and incest is that the actual experiences of sexual assault victims who became pregnant are routinely left out of the debate. Most people, including sexual assault victims who have never been pregnant, are therefore forming opinions based on prejudices and fears which are disconnected from reality. For example, it is commonly assumed that rape victims who become pregnant would naturally want abortions. But in the only major study of pregnant rape victims ever done, Dr. Sandra McCorn found that 75 to 85% chose against abortion. This evidence alone should cause people to pause and reflect on the presumption that abortion is wanted or even best for the sexual assault victims. Several reasons are given for not aborting. First, approximately 70% of all women believe abortion is immoral, even though many also feel it should be a legal choice for others. Approximately the same percentage of pregnant rape victims believe abortion would be just another act of violence perpetuated against their bodies and their children. Second, some believe that their child's life may have some intrinsic meaning or purpose which they do not yet understand. This child was brought into their lives by a horrible, repulsive act, but perhaps God or fate will use the child for some greater purpose. Good can come from evil. Third, victims of assault often become introspective. Their sense of the value of life and respect for others is heightened. They have been victimized, and they thought that they in turn might victimize their own innocent child through abortion is repulsive. Fourth, at least at a subconscious level, the victim may sense that if she can get through the pregnancy, she will have conquered the rape. By giving birth, she can reclaim some of her lost self-esteem. Giving birth, especially when conception was not desired, is a totally selfless act, a generous act, a display of courage, strength, and honor. It is proof that she is better than the rapist. While he was selfish, she can be generous. And while he was destroying, she can be nurturing. If giving birth builds self-respect, what about abortion? This is a question which most people fail to even consider. Instead, most people assume that an abortion will at least help a rape victim put the assault behind her and go on with her life. But in jumping into this conclusion, the public is adopting an unrealistic view of abortion. Abortion is not some magical surgery which turns back time to make a woman unpregnant. Instead, it is a real-life event which is always very stressful and often traumatic. Once we accept that abortion is itself an event with ramifications on a woman's life, then we must carefully look at the special circumstances of the pregnant rape victim. Will an abortion truly console her, or will it only cause further injury to her already bruised psyche? In answering this question, it is helpful to begin by noting that many women report that their abortions felt like a degrading and brutal form of medical rape. This association between abortion and rape is not hard to understand. Abortion involves a painful examination of a woman's sexual organs by a masked stranger who is invading her body. Once she is on the operating table, she loses control over her body. If she protests and asks for the abortionist to stop, she will likely be ignored or told, "It's too late to change your mind. This is what you wanted. We have to finish now." And while she lies there, tense and helpless, the life hidden within her is literally sucked out of her womb. The difference: in sexual rape, a woman is robbed of her purity. In this medical rape, she is robbed of her maternity. This experiential association between abortion and sexual assault is very strong for many women. It is especially strong for women who have a prior history of sexual assault. Whether or not she is presently pregnant as a result of an assault, this is just one reason why women with a history of sexual assault are likely to experience greater distress during and after an abortion than other women. Second, research shows that after any abortion, it is common for women to experience guilt, depression, feelings of being dirty, resentment of men, and lowered self-esteem. What is most significant is that these feelings are identical to what women typically feel after rape. Abortion only adds to and accentuates the traumatic feelings associated with sexual assault. Rather than easing the psychological burdens of the sexual assault victim, abortion adds to them. This was the experience of Jackie Baker, who reports, "I soon discovered that the aftermath of my abortion continued a long time after the memory of my rape had faded. I felt empty and horrible. Nobody told me about the pain I would feel deep within, causing nightmares and deep depressions. They had all told me that after the abortion I could continue my life as if nothing had happened." Those encouraging abortion often do so because they are uncomfortable dealing with rape victims, or perhaps out of prejudice against victims whom they see as being guilty for letting it happen. Wiping out the pregnancy is a way of hiding the problem. It is a quick and easy way to avoid dealing with the woman's true emotional, social, and financial needs. According to Kathleen Dazoo, I have lived through rape, and also having raised a child conceived in rape, feel personally assaulted and insulted every time I hear that abortion should be legal because of rape and incest. I feel that we're being used by pro-abortionists to further the abortion issue, even though we've not been asked to tell our side. The case against abortion of incest pregnancies is even stronger. Studies show that incest victims rarely ever voluntarily agree to an abortion. Instead of viewing the pregnancy as unwanted, the incest victim is more likely to see the pregnancy as a way out of the incestuous relationship because the birth of her child will expose the sexual activity. She is also likely to see in her pregnancy the hope of bearing a child with whom she can establish a true, loving relationship, one far different from the exploitive relationship in which she has been trapped. But while the incest victim may treasure her pregnancy because it offers her hope of release and the hope of finding a nurturing love, her pregnancy is a threat to the exploiter. It is also a threat to the pathological secrecy which many envelop other members of their family who are afraid to acknowledge that the abuse is occurring. Because of this dual threat, the victim may be coerced into an unwanted abortion by both the abuser and other family members. For example, Edith Young, a 12-year-old victim of incest, impregnated by her stepfather, writes 25 years after the abortion of her child. Through the years, I have been depressed, suicidal, furious, outraged, lonely, and have felt a sense of loss. The abortion, which was to be in my best interest, just has not been. As far as I can tell, it only saved their reputations, solved their problems, and allowed their lives to go merrily on. My daughter, how I miss her so. I miss her regardless of the reason for her conception. Abortion providers who ignore this evidence and neglect to interview minors presented for abortion for signs of coercion or incest are actually contributing to the young girl's victimization. They are not only robbing the victim of her child, they are concealing a crime, abetting a perpetrator, and handing the victim back to her abuser so that the exploitation can continue. Finally, we must recognize that the children conceived through sexual assault also have a voice which deserves to be heard. Julie Makima, conceived by an act of rape, works diligently against the perception that abortion is acceptable or even necessary in cases of sexual assault. While sympathetic to the suffering her mother endured at the hands of her attacker, Julie is also rightfully proud of her mother's courage and generosity. Regarding her own view of her origin, Julie proclaims, "It doesn't matter how I began. What matters is who I will become." That is a slogan we can all live with. The end. Originally published in the Post-Abortion Review, winter of 1994, copyright 1994, from the Elliott Institute. And there's 4 references in this article by David C. Reardon, Ph.D. And this article points out several stats, but I would say that since 1990, America has moved to the center right since 1994 when it comes to abortion. We know that babies can live in an incubator with medical help at 22 weeks outside the womb. And so as these things, like, with the Mississippi abortion law at 15 weeks, and I think there's a Texas one, Oklahoma just today, I think, implemented one of 6 weeks. So what does all this mean? If the Supreme Court hands this back to the states, it's not ending abortion. It's ending Roe v. Wade, which was horrible legislation to begin with. And you can go do your own research. It was horrible legislation, and then the people that brought Roe v. Wade even later admitted to lying about a lot of stuff that they perpetuated. But one of the things that people will throw out is like, well, if you're pro-life, then are you for the death penalty? And then so here's where I land on all that. I'm 100% against abortion. Do I believe the procedure should be available? Yes. because there are things that go on like an ectopic pregnancy where the doctors are going to have to go in and remove the fetus. I mean, anytime you're surgically removing the fetus prior to it being due, it's considered an abortion. But with an ectopic pregnancy, the baby's dying or dead, and it's going to cause harm to the mother. Those things were, they put out the argument that, a baby, could kill the mom when it's being born. No baby. That's like 1% ever happens, like less than 1%. And so should that procedure be available? Yes. Just like the death penalty should be available. Should everybody get the death penalty? No. If you murder and rape a child, a horrendous, thing like that, then yeah, let's do the death penalty for that person. But for the most part, that should be reserved for those that really deserve the death penalty. And again, it should be a states' right issue. It shouldn't be a federal issue. So what happens when this comes to fruition? When the Supreme Court hands this back to the states, essentially all they're doing is saying, we're overturning Roe v. Wade. If your state wants to vote and have abortions, they can. If your state doesn't, wants to vote and not have abortions, they can. So it'll be a states' rights issue, which then, if there's a woman out there that wants to go get an abortion, she'll have to drive to a state that provides that. So there you have it. That's kind of what will be happening. Everybody's going to scream. Those on the left are going to scream Handmaid's Tale, and we're seeing they're taking away women's rights and things like that. No. Even in Mississippi, it's a 15-week ban. So you've got 15 weeks to figure out you're pregnant, and you can still go get an abortion. So there's that. So it's not taking away women's rights. It's returning this issue back to the states and let the populace vote on it. And, if you don't like what your state's doing, you can move or you can live with it. And, I'm always in favor of more liberty and being creative. That's why it's called the Creative Liberty Podcast. Being creative in our thinking and in our doing and leading in a way that shows innovation and intuitiveness. I'm also for, bringing a better product. So I would be all for, rewarding women who are pregnant but yet they don't want the baby. Then let's open that up to the adoption agencies. There's a ton of people out there. For every, 4 or 5 couples, there's only one child. So adoptions are down. Adoption, wanting a child is up. Being able to make a child or kids getting pregnant out of wedlock, abortions are down, actually. Kids, women, parent or people have better access to birth control, things like that. So the kids being born out of wedlock or that are, for whatever reason, can't be parented by their birthing people, their mothers or fathers, then they can't. There's just less of them, and there's more families wanting to adopt than there are children. I would be okay with ending abortion. Like, it's illegal to have it. Like, you can't do it. Like, have the child and give it up for adoption. That's the mature adult thing to do. Or keep it and raise it. That's the best thing to do. But if you can't do it, give it to a family that will love it and raise it in the best environment possible. So, but those are just my thoughts. I would love to know what your thoughts are on all this going on in the courts. But yeah, so there's arguments here. The abortion actually does affect women much greater than some would lead you to believe. And when we're talking about abortion, we're not talking about those little 1%. Those are the facts that they always want to throw back to you. Well, what about the health of the mother? Or what about, the death penalty? All this stuff. That's okay. All right. So I would love to know what the Biden administration's point is on this. Someone needs to ask Jen Sakibom about this. At what level of infanticide are you okay with? Because California is trying to pass legislation that says after you birth your child, you can kill it if you don't want it. I say no level of infanticide, period. So those are my thoughts. Love to know your thoughts in the comments below. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Hope y'all have enjoyed it. New bumper music I'll end with. Until the next time, y'all have a great one, and I will talk to y'all later. I have another podcast out there that I'm working on. Need to edit it, but it's got the old bumper music. So anyway, what interesting times we're living in now. It's kind of cool. All right. This is Major signing off for the Creative Liberty Podcast. Have a great one. I'm grateful you guys are listening. Thanks, and I'll talk to you next time.